Okay.
Are you there, Melissa?
I am here. How are you doing,
Ah,
Julian?
just about alive and kicking. Yes, yeah.
I told Sonia when she called me, just tell you happiness is a Colombian tribe.
I've got to write that down again because it's so true. I keep for, yeah, no, it's a Colombian tribe.
I figured if I told you that and you'd listen to
Yes,
the southern accent, you'd know who I was.
yes, no, indeed, indeed, indeed. No, that it's good to be reminded of that story because it meant so much to me. That time and that space there, and it reminded me to breathe and just, you know, let all of that anxiety and fear go because that's what that did to me at that time and place. Very
Exactly.
special, very special.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your new album, Jude, is the first one in I think more than 11 years.
It's about 11 years, something like that. But what is time?
What is That's true. Were you taking a break? Were you just doing other things, or?
Yeah, no, I was doing. I mean, I thought that the previous album was going to be the last album. Everything changes. I did photographs for each song on the album. I did, the artwork, and then I did a documentary tied in with that whole album. I had an app with that out. It was a whole big thing. I thought, well, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to put it all on the table. Here it is. Thank you very much. And then I just, there were so many other, I've been doing music for over 30 years already, and I'd been pouring my heart and soul into all this stuff. And not that I was expecting anything back, but, even for the stuff to be heard would have been nice, So I just kind of had enough. And I just thought, well, what about all the other stuff that I absolutely adore? And, my dear friend Timothy White got me into the photography game. Not that I was looking for that, but I truly fell in love with it. I think I may have mentioned because, I get to actually breathe and be behind the camera, which is somewhere I much more prefer than being in front. I don't mind doing this and having conversations and performing once, but it doesn't allow me to breathe. I have a lot of anxiety with that, and being behind the camera allows me to be me and just observe and be behind the scenes, but creative at the same time, and also do good things at the same time. Whether that's the White Feather Foundation, whether that's the children's books or documentaries that I'm involved in. So, for me, that's it. But I just happened upon a box full of old demos initially, which I brought to light and found that there was some really good songs that I still loved that I never quite finished, or they just didn't belong on an album or project back then. And so I found that some of the tracks were really fantastic, in great shape. So I thought, okay, well, let me fix what needs fixing, update the production, and go from there. And the first release, Every Little Moment, was one of those songs. It was the song that actually got me into the whole groove of looking at all those tapes again. I mean, I've still got a box of a couple of hundred tapes to go through. I've just got to find the time to do that. And then, of course, build upon. But half the album is old, half the album is new. It's all retrospective in many respects. But bizarrely, the subject matter from 30 years ago is still the subject matter of today.
Sure.
Whether that's about the world around us and the wars around us, or the worlds and wars within. For me, it's always been about that and conveying that as real and emotionally as possible. And for me, calling it Jude was very much a coming of age. It was about, it's again a bit of yin and yang. It's about the fact that adhering to some of the lyrics that Paul was trying to support and advise and all that, but also, as I've said on a few occasions, that a lot of people don't really understand that, as well as that may have been a great song, a great chanting song. It became a favorite of the Beatles and Paul's, but it's a harsh reminder of what actually happened, in my life, which was my father walked out on my mother and I. I barely saw him at all before he was taken away. And, that was a truly, truly difficult time. I mean, Mum tells me stories of me being an absolute lunatic as a child, crying and, screaming for my father. Where has he gone? I mean, and the list goes on. So this is just another one of many, many stories we hear of in the world today, but this one is particularly mine. And it's all about having understood what that was all about, coming to terms with that, coming to terms with me and who I am today, what that means, not only for everybody else, but for me too. And another part of the story that I'm not sure I've mentioned before is that, I had a real struggle because my given name was John Charles Julian Lennon. So, going anywhere or going through security or going through airports or this or that, they'd always see John Lennon first. They wouldn't necessarily know it was I was Julian. They wouldn't. Most of them wouldn't, and they'd be quite smarmy about it or joking, saying, "Oh well, aren't you lucky having the same name?" Or are you related? Which wasn't so bad, but there was a lot of anxiety with that, with being called John and never really be seen as Julian. And so in 2020, I finally decided, of course, just before the beginning of the pandemic, good timing, I finally decided by deed poll to change my name. But I didn't want to lose any of the names that my mum or dad gave me. So I just switched the John and Julian. So I still have the Charles, who was my grandfather, whom I never met. But now I'm legally Julian Charles John Lennon. So what people see first on any application, is Julian. So for me, Jude was, again, showing me as myself, as who I am today, what I've done, what I've achieved over the last few years as an artist, as a writer, as a producer, etc., etc. And I feel very much that I am my own man, and I've built a very serious working foundation on many, many levels, and that cannot be taken away from me. And so I feel, finally that, especially with this album, because a lot of people think I've been a hermit, but no, I've just not been on the camera in front of everybody. That's not a place I actually like to be, really. I can be there sometimes to do certain things, but for the most part, let me be behind the camera. I'm happiest, behind the scenes on most of the things that I do, and I think. That's I just try to be me these days, and that's part of who I am. Anyway, I'll stop yapping now. Maybe you have a question for me.
That's fine. That's fine. Enjoy it. So, and singing, recording Imagine was also difficult for you.
Or you want to talk about coming to terms with stuff, or I mean that. That is a song that I never thought I've said this before, I never thought I would have to sing, because it's not a song that I wanted to sing. It's not a song I didn't want to. I've never really wanted to sing any Beatles songs or any Dad songs, because why would you? For me, that there was no logic in that. They or he did things so well. That how can I better that? So when this came about, when Global Citizen called my manager Rebecca and said, listen, we're doing this whole big thing literally next week. Has Jules got anything up his sleeve? And because of the ongoing war and the crisis with refugees around the world, the only thing I had up my sleeve that I felt that would make any kind of impact or get any kind of recognition or people would hear about what's going on would be to sing Imagine. And she looked at me and said, Jules, Rebecca did. She just said, so what do you think? And I knew that she meant singing Imagine. So I said, okay, yes, I'll do it. But then I thought, oh my God, what have I just done? I'm actually going to have to do it. What does that mean? How do I even begin to consider singing this song? And immediately the first thing was, okay, don't do it on piano. Don't do it like Dad did it, because that would draw the comparisons right in. And I just said, no, it has to be acoustic guitar, raw, no production, heart on my sleeve, end of subject. Give it your all. That's the best you can do. That's all you can do. And, we went, I met Nuno Betancourt at his little home studio. And I mean, it's like a box. And we just ran it. He'd never played it on guitar ever. And so he just had an acoustic guitar. We sang it through a few times just to get the feel, recorded it. And I was shocked at how comfortable that I felt immediately that I did okay. I feel like I did okay. I feel like I honored him. I respected Dad, but also respected the song and what it represented, what it stood for. And I just felt that it was okay to let it go. And that for me was, that was a big sigh of relief. But then, of course, once we'd done that, the next, I thought we were over and done with. Then it was, the next day was, okay, well, now we've got to make a video. What? Oh my God. Oh no, please. Oh no. So I just had this vision of a big old studio. I'd been working at Capitol Studios doing some other mixes for my album. And I just saw this big empty studio with a piano, but didn't want to use the piano, but we honored it by having a piano in the back of the room, which we start at the beginning of the video. So that was a way of honoring the original version. And then just keeping it so simple, just lit by the candles. And I think we did about 4 takes, and that was it. And I just went, okay. Of course, the anxiety levels were through the roof. I had no idea how it was going to be received. But let me tell you, I think it turned my life around. I had the fear of the opposite happening, but the response from it has been overwhelmingly, just mind-bogglingly good and amazing and shocking in the best possible ways. And it's been lovely. It's given me a weird second life that I never thought I would possibly have, And the weird thing was, and the timing was so odd because it was happening on the day that I was releasing my first singles in 11 years. I don't know what's going on in the world, but the timing of things are the most, it was the most bizarre thing because we kind of had to drop the release of my singles because this was far more important. And I didn't mind doing that, but because I think by drawing attention, by getting the attention of people listening to Imagine, they would indirectly come and listen to the new work that I was doing now anyway, without even pushing it or trying it. So in the weirdest of ways, I was very thankful. It was just, not in a million years did I think the weekend before I was releasing my first single in 11 years that I would be releasing a version of Imagine to the world and with the biggest audience that I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
I mean, go figure. I still can't get my head around that. It's just.
Well, it was amazing. It's perfect. And, really, it just, it made me very emotional because that's one of my favorite songs, and it was just, it really was wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. And
Really,
again, that
it was.
it went out to a lot of people that may have only heard it once or have never heard it before,
Yeah.
And so it's weird hearing, new people in the world going, "Oh, I love that song. What and then realizing it was, Dad's song from God knows how many years ago. It
Of
was
course,
amazing.
yes, I do it. I'm 66, so
It was no,
what can I say?
because it really did affect people across the board.
Absolutely.
There was no boundaries on this, which is what the song was really all about.
Yeah.
There's no boundaries. So that was unique in of itself. Is that this song was being heard in a way that it could never have been heard before. Yeah. So it was a new lease of life for it as well, and him and his work as well. So it was, who would have thought? I mean, really, who would have thought?
So yeah, so the Imagine and Jude and everything. So that sort of worked together for you to just embrace, I guess your past, and then with your present.
Yeah, it was about losing. It was about finally. At least I'm working through it. I have been all my life, but coming to terms with the anxiety that I've had, the fear that I've had, and now taking the reins on this has put me in a completely different position than I was before. By having called the album Jude, by doing Imagine, this is it's almost like inciting a riot, but what has come back from it has been the total opposite from what I expected. And it's and the weird thing is, people are asking me less questions now about the Beatles and Dad than they've ever done before, which is weird. It's because I thought it would be, oh, what do you call you, Jude? Oh, and then it would, all the Beatles stuff would come out again. But it just hasn't. It's just been a new, it's like I don't want to say a clean slate, but it's certainly, it is in many respects. It's just like, it's like the snake that sheds its skin. That this is still me, but it's the newer, improved version. Hopefully, So at least that's what I'm striving for, is to be, as good a person as I can be. So,
I really love the song. I've listened to 4 or 5 songs on the album, and I think maybe my favorite so far is "Save Me."
Ah, okay.
And
yeah, well, I mean, that was definitely really about, especially through the pandemic, that was very much about looking at myself in the mirror and realizing that the only one that can get me out of this situation, or whatever situation, is me. People can tell you left, right, and center who, what, when, where, and how, but at the end of the day, and it's true, I believe, obviously, I think it's true for everybody, that only you can make those changes and choices in your life. It's that simple. And I mean, I'm not saying it's that simple across the board, but certainly, once you've made a decision to, be a better person, or do something, or have a purpose, or realize your dreams, then you got to go and do it. You got to, there's nobody else is doing it for you. It's, in fact, this harkens back to my album from 93 or 4 or 5, Help Yourself, which is all about the same storyline, really, at the end of the day, just a few decades later.
Mm-hmm. Have you got? I think we last spoke about the Morning Tribe, the book.
Yes, that's right.
Any other? Do you have any plans to do any other in that series?
No, I think for me that was it. I think we did a great job in getting what I felt was the right info out there, which was about getting kids to to really start the conversation about environmental and humanitarian issues with their parents, so that they are called into action to actually do things and care about their lives and their children's lives more. I don't know what more I can say past the trilogy that's already there, because it's pretty inclusive of all the subject matter that I care about and I'm passionate about, and that we deal with the White Feather Foundation. So, we're just continuing that legacy, so to speak, and we're gearing up for White Feather Foundation to become a lot bigger and stronger than it's ever been before. With different ambassadors coming on board from different walks of life. It looks like we're going to be gaining some serious sponsorship in the next year or so, which means we'll be able to do so much more. And again, what we've always done is we've always tried to take care of the little people. And what I mean by that is those are the projects that most of the major charities, that fall by the major by the wayside of the major charities. So we're the voice for the people that really aren't heard at all. I want to support more, and I want this to grow more, and I want to do the right thing. It's not about shouting our name loud and clear, but we're the people, like my own life in many respects, that we're just bubbling underneath and getting things done. That's for me what the most important thing is. I don't need to be shouting about this stuff. I just want to do what I can to help those that I can. It's and if again, with all that I do, a generous proportion goes to White Feather, whether that's music, photography, documentaries, White Feather films, you name it. So. Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that I'm thinking about writing-wise, moving forward, is probably about my life. But I don't want to do the same old memoir. I want to be a bit more inventive. I want to be a bit more creative about how I do that. And I've come up with an idea and a plan and a concept. But I can't tell you about it, of course.
I get that a lot.
But all I can say is that the publisher that I think I'm working with said it's never been done before.
Oh.
So there you go. So there could be something new on the horizon. Anyway, fingers crossed. But apart from that, there's so much more work to do still with the photography and traveling. With White Feather and documentaries, which we have a few lined up that we're looking for backing and sponsorship for. So this is the beginning of another chapter with White Feather Films, tied in with the White Feather Foundation, and just going out there and doing as much good as we can and telling the stories of those that need to be told. Voila.
I just recently saw a video of you and Steven Tyler that I thought was really cool.
Well, we have time for one more question. Sorry to interrupt you. Just one more question.
No problem.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see.
I tell you why. The only reason why, Melissa, is because I'm the one keeping a tight schedule, because I actually have to drive to the airport to pick up a friend that's landing in about 45 minutes.
Okay.
So that's
I'd rather ask you this question.
Sure.
You've always said that you viewed life differently because of your unusual path in life. So does that apply to both your creative gifts and your personal life?
I guess so, because I mean, we are absolutely all individuals, and we do not, regardless of my family and my past in that regard, we see things from a perspective that that we wish to see things from. So I think, dependent on your view of life, well, for me, I feel I have a purpose, whether I like it or not. I'm driven. I'm absolutely driven. I drive people crazy with the amount of work that I do. I'm just a workaholic, and there are not enough hours in the day for me. And so, I don't know many. There aren't many people that I know, even close friends, that have the drive or maybe purpose that I feel that I have. So I think that comes from a different perspective than a lot of other people that don't have that. And there are many that don't, that's for sure. So that's always been a key thing. I've always felt like I've been a bit of the oddball, a bit of the odd one out, because also, I didn't have a great amount of friends in school because, on many occasions I'd be introduced at a new school, at assembly in an English school as, oh, and here who's come to join us this year is John Lennon's son, Julian Lennon, John Lennon from the Beatles. So from the get-go, I didn't know who was going to be my friend, so I was very, very much and have always been very much a loner. I don't even feel like I'm part of the real music scene half of the time. I don't hang with those people. I live in my own weird little bubble, and I just get on with what I think is the right thing to do at the right time in the best way possible and as organically as possible. And that's always been my belief, and that's how I see moving forward.
Yeah. Thanks so much for your time today, Julian.
My pleasure.
I was glad to see you face to face after, I think this is our 4th interview. I'm not sure, but it was.
God, I can't keep up. I cannot keep up.
It was great to see you face to face.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Much love, Melissa.
Take care of yourself.
Much love. You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.